Why? It's an African one. Yeah.
It's by Amazon.
Yeah, me I like it. Something so. This my African hands, them gon' love you. Yeah. My African lips, them gon' kiss you. Whoa. My African hips get down for you. Whoa. My African legs, them gon' run to you. Whether you come here to break dance, I say you come here to shake hands. You come here to make plans. Never would it reach as motherland. Whether you come here to rock West, I be not to find good, everything they ever would it reach as motherland. Anywhere you go, London, USA, nowhere be like Africa, nowhere be like home. Anywhere you go, New York, Chicago, nowhere be like Africa, nowhere be like home. Biko eruya wayo, wayaka, karibu kiti, utapewa nini? Ayayaya, weruya wayo, wayaka, karibu kiti, utapewa nini?
This my African artists will love you. This my African arms, they will squeeze you. Yeah. My African ears will listen to you. My Kenyan legs will run to you. Yeah. Now come on, umekuja ku break down. Umekuja ku get down. Umekuja ku take chance. Hakuna matata kama umekuja kulipa kupiga densi hapo ulipo kata kiuno. Anywhere you go, London, USA, nowhere be like Africa, nowhere be like home. Anywhere you go, New York, Chicago, nowhere be like Africa, nowhere be like home.
Biko eruya wayo, wayaka, karibu kiti, utapewa nini? Ayayaya, weruya wayo, wayaka, karibu kiti, utapewa nini? Lele. It's an African one. Soldier come, soldier go. Your home now your home. Irreplaceable. Anywhere you go. London, USA. Nowhere be like Africa. Nowhere be like home. Anywhere you go. New York, Chicago. Nowhere be like Africa. Nowhere be like home. Biko eruya wayo. Wayaka, karibu kiti, utapewa nini? Ayayaya, weruya wayo. Wayaka, karibu kiti, utapewa nini? Lele. Africa, Africa, yeah, yeah. Sweet like bangano, baby.
Beautiful. And that was a song by Yemi Alade and Sauti Soul, which is Africa. And I love that it's speaking about our very own beautiful continent. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Empowering Young Entrepreneurs with AfCFTA. My name is Labukhang Rampa, and I will be your master of ceremony for today. I hope you guys will enjoy the session as I will enjoy it with you guys as we stir the ship together. So just to thank you, Valencia, you can just maybe just go on. I see a lot of people are joining in. I'm getting excited. I hope everyone is just excited to just learn more. As I said, welcome to the Youth Alliance for Leadership and Development in Africa, our very own short course 2.0 with the certification. So that means that after that, you'll be certified with a certificate after that. Can we just please just maybe just go through some ground house rules and just some a bit of etiquette that we'd like to just highlight just before we start? Just excuse us for our technical error that we're experiencing. But just let me just also just give a warm welcome to those who are from Libya. I hope my Libyan friends are here. Hello to my friends in Mauritius. Hello to my friends in Madagascar. Hello to my friends in South Africa. And also hello to my friends in Kenya, Nairobi, Botswana, our West African brothers and sisters. Also, a shout out to Nigeria. I see some of our friends from Lesotho and Botswana are here. So that's a big shout out to you. Let's just give Valencia just 2 minutes to just get our content on the way. Thank you. I see you. I see Zambia is also here. Ah, beautiful. So just to go through some etiquette and some house rules, I believe that since now we're having the session at the comfort of our own home, I don't really need to tell anyone where the bathroom or the toilets are. Just a bit of a joke. So just to go through some etiquette. So when you enter the short course on Zoom, make sure that your mic is on mute. Remain mute throughout the whole session and ensure that your camera is off. Type your questions and your comments below, and also just put in the name and the country that you are from. Those who have questions or comments will be selected and will be asked to unmute and speak. The participants may open the camera if only I call upon them, or any of the speakers just really call upon their name. Can we all just please mute our mics for the session? Thank you very much. And if you're asked to speak, you must introduce yourself with your name and the country that you are from. And lastly, just a bit of some house rules. Just if you just have any questions, just kindly repeat your question, and also just a bit of your name. Tell us also where the country that you're from. And that I think should be it. Just type into the chat box and I'll make sure that I do read your questions. I love how you guys are just all going through the chat box. I'm seeing our brothers from Nigeria also in. Let's just all just give a recognition and just a thank to all of our partners of YALDA. We have the AfCFTA Secretariat Office. We also have the UNDP, as well as the African Export and Import Bank, Afreximbank, as well as the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. And lastly, but not least, we have the International Trade Center. So to just give a reflection of just how our modules have been, in a series of our modules, it actually started on the first module was on the 29th of May, which was the AfCFTA Secretariat, which is mainly just helping us to just understand how the trade under the AfCFTA Agreement and Protocol on Women and Youth in Trade. And the second module was transpiring and happened rather on June 26th, which was by UNECA. So this module was really just about fast tracking the AfCFTA implementation and just about the youth taken into consideration and having the youth to be inside an engagement or in the AfCFTA agreement and protocol. And our third module, which was happening on the 24th of July, was actually transpired or was rather hosted by the UNDP, which is mainly just really about the African service market created by the AfCFTA which is elaborating more on the opportunities and the strategies for the market access. And today we are having our fourth module, which will be rather hosted by the Afreximbank, which is the African Export and Import Bank, which will mainly teaching us and rather educating us on accessing finance for cross-border trade under the AfCFTA. We'll be also having our fifth module will be happening next month on the 18th. So I really hope that everyone will be joining in to just increase our knowledge a bit more. Now, this will be hosted by the ITC market, which will be elaborating more on the market access conditions on how to export with the AfCFTA. And I hope that everyone will be joining in also on the 18th of September. I'd really like to see everyone just there. So I'm sure a lot of you guys are just wondering that what is today's module all about? What is the series all about? So today is hosted, as I just elaborated, by the African Export and Import Bank, which will be mainly covering the Export SME Development Program that it is designed to provide a range of comprehensive financial and non-financial service to support export-orientated SMEs, furtherance of the bank intra-African trade. Industrialization and export development pillars. The bank carry out its objective of supporting SMEs across the whole continent through the four strategic pillars, which are financing, capacity building, market access, and policy advocacy. And I know that we will be learning a lot and we will be enjoying. And this is yours truly conducted by the Afreximbank. I can see in the chat but that everyone is excited as I am. But please also be on the lookout for our social media platforms, which also, if you can just follow us on Facebook, we are there. Twitter, we are there. Instagram, just go to our handle at YALDA Dumela. And also follow us on our WhatsApp and Telegram, LinkedIn, which I've also provided the links below. It's just a click away for you guys. And hopefully you guys can just screenshot as the speakers are giving in their inputs and also just post it also in your Instagram page. We're also there if you can just check out our achievements and some of our videos on YouTube. And also check it out in LinkedIn, Instagram, our LinkedIn page. We also ask that you may keep our social media alive, but just posting at least once a week. So just to introduce our speakers, our first speaker will be Mr. Gerald Msomba, who is a senior specialist and consultant Intra-African Trade Bank and Afreximbank. We also have our second speaker, Mr. Frederick Sedu, who is a senior specialist as well in trade and corporate finance. Intra-African and Trade Initiative, which is also by Afreximbank. But we are also joined in, apologies for that, we're also joined in by our coordinators, which is Ms. Sandra Achiai, who is an associate of trade and facilitation, Intra-African Trade, and Afreximbank. We also have our other coordinators, which is Mai Farah, Team Support and Export Development Department, also from our very own Africa Export and Import Bank. And lastly, but not least, we have Ms. Alassane Ndiaye, a consultant in SME capacity building, also from our very own African and Export and Import Bank, Afreximbank. And I'll now be handing over to Mr. Gerald, who will be also just facilitating and just giving us a presentation on what today is all about. Welcome, Mr. G.
Thank you. Thank you, Lebo Gang. And Mr. G is what Sandra and the rest call me in the bank. So maybe you they gave you some notes behind the scenes. But I hope I'm audible enough. Please confirm, Labor Gang.
Yes, sir, you are audible. Just switch on your camera for us.
I hope you can see me now.
Yes, you are visual now.
All right. Good evening, good day, good afternoon, all. My name is Gerald Insomba. I'm a senior specialist in the Intra-Africa Trade Bank within the African Export-Import Bank. I'll be taking you through some of the key highlights on how Afreximbank is supporting the transformation on the continent as we all seek to build a better future for the youth in Africa. I have my colleagues who have already been introduced, and I can confirm that I'll be taking the entire presentation on behalf of the bank, and I would love this to be an interactive session. So, Madam Program Director, at any point you feel that maybe we should pause and take a few interventions, I will be following your lead. If you allow me, I will now go into our presentation, and forgive me because of time constraints, we will not be able to speak through the entire material, but I believe the organizers will share, and we can we'll be happy to receive even interventions after this session. Labor Gang, could you confirm if are you able to see the presentation?
We are able to see, sir.
All right.
You may proceed.
So I'm not sure whether it is projecting the right window. Please confirm that you are able to see the full slide. Is that the case?
We're able to see just the full slide, but only maybe just if you can just tap in twice to maybe just view the whole thing, but we are able to see it on our side.
I believe Africa's future is in the youth. I don't even know where to tap.
But
okay, it's projecting this on our screen.
You can go to the presentation mode by pressing the little television screen next to the zoom in and zoom out. Yeah, there.
I think because I have two screens, it's showing the full one on the screen to my left, but
then you can see you can go to display setting and
oh yeah, sure, you're right. I think I'll find it somewhere here.
But in the meantime, I'm loving that everyone is just also just tapping in with their name. Let's also just continue to tap in there. I've seen my sisters from Malawi. So if we can just continue to just tap in with your name on the chat box, write your name and the country that you are watching the shortcast from. Thank you very much, Mr. Gerald. Over to you again.
All right, I've just tried to duplicate so that maybe we shouldn't have this problem. Is this still displaying or not?
It's not displaying on my side. Yes, now it is displaying.
The display is from my end. You can just, you'll be informing me when you move. Yeah.
Is it from your end?
Well, I've managed to display it. Yeah.
Allow me to display because there were some key tweaks. Let's just try one more time.
I'm also happy to just see that we're also joined in, Mr. G, just to give you a heads up. We're also joined in by our brothers and sisters in America from the USA. So just welcome also just our continent counterparts. And yeah, I think today is just going to be an informative session. A lot of people are excited as I am.
All right. So are you able to see it now? Please confirm.
It's not visible yet.
I think it will work. If it doesn't work this time around, we'll go.
Yes, thank you. Now it's fine.
Okay. It's fine, right?
Yes, now it's fine.
Okay. All right. Apologies for that. Like I said, we will try to summarize the presentation because it's long.
Gerard,
Yes.
you can still go to the display setting, then swap display, then we'll be having the
Oh my goodness. Again.
We are having two screens, so you can go to the display setting on top. You are just okay. Let's go to the.
Which one?
You're just fine. On the presentation.
On the presentation itself, not on the computer.
Yeah. Go the same process. Then you can go to display settings. Once we have the two sides showing.
Okay, so I should put the presentation first.
Yes. Then after the presentation is there, then you go to display settings. Then it will be display settings at the top. Then you can swap the presentation. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Duplicate, right? Or swap. All right.
Yeah.
Is that fine now?
Yeah, it's fine now.
Okay, thank you. Apologies for that. So I'll try to be quick to make up for the lost time. We are going to present largely two categories of interventions by Afreximbank in support of AfCFTA implementation in the continent. The first category will be trade facilitation interventions, and then the next category will be financing interventions. But as we are going through the trade facilitation interventions, we'll also touch on some of the financing programs that support each program. I'll quickly introduce the bank so that there's context. The African Export-Import Bank, in short, Afreximbank, was founded in 1993 and they commenced operations in 1994. It was conceptualized via a collaboration by the African Development Bank and partner African states, and of course other institutions. The project started in the late 80s as the world was going through a crisis, and the continent felt that there was need for a specialized trade finance institution to help continents continue accessing financing, liquidity, and so on, even in times of such crises. We have multiple regional offices in various countries. I will not go through all that. We are rated globally by 4 rating agencies, GCR, Moody's, Fitch, and also the Japanese. Our balance sheet, the figures are there, but I will not go through them in the interest of time. But those who are interested can just review when we share the presentation. As I said, we have multiple regional offices in 6 countries in the continent, and the 7th one is in the Caribbean region based in Barbados. I think the program director really helped me. She already introduced our strategic pillars. We operate on 5-year strategic cycles. The current strategy is called Impact 2026. So it commenced in 2022 and will terminate in 2026. And it's called Extending the Frontiers. We want to promote intra-Africa trade and the AfCFTA implementation. That's the first pillar. The second pillar is to promote industrialization and export development to make sure that there is increased export manufacturing in the continent. The third one is to lead in terms of global trade banking in Africa and to make sure that there is sufficient trade finance and the relevant instruments of support. And the fourth pillar, of course, is to make sure that we are running a financially stable institution to drive the continent's development ambitions. I will now go to the intervention instruments, and to begin with, I'll speak about the AfCFTA Adjustment Fund. When the continent rolled out the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, various institutions, including some of the partners for this program, like UNECA, UNCTAD, and others, already estimated that there will be some transitional gaps in African countries, and therefore there may be need to provide financing to close those gaps. And therefore, Afreximbank, collaborating with partners like the AfCFTA, UNECA, and others, conceptualized and rolled out the AfCFTA Adjustment Fund. It provides funding under 3 windows. One is to just cushion countries as they experience revenue losses from joining the AfCFTA. There's a general fund, which is a concessional window to make sure that as countries are repositioning themselves to produce and trade in the continent, they access the requisite financing, as well as a credit fund, which is commercially available to public and private sector entities as they are gearing themselves up towards trading and investing in Africa. The other intervention that I want to touch on this early on are some of the solutions that we developed to support SMEs in Africa with the requisite financing, skills, and capacity to make sure that they actively participate in the AfCFTA. So our SME development program has various objectives. I will not go through all of them, but amongst the key ones is to facilitate integration of export-oriented SMEs into cross-border value chains and to facilitate access to financing for those export-oriented SMEs and to give them the right capacity in terms of skills and other requirements for them to participate in the AfCFTA opportunities. We provide financing, capacity building, market access, as well as under the SME development program, there's also policy advocacy to make sure that the regulatory environment in the AfCFTA is addressed to make sure that it facilitates the SMEs to thrive and trade. Some of the financial interventions that we provide to SMEs include digital scale-ups. So I do encourage members of this grouping because most of the youth are involved in digital scale-ups, creatives, as well as other youth and women-run businesses and export manufacturers. We do provide financing to them. There are eligibility requirements, KYC being one of them. Every other financing institution needs to know its customer and conduct the relevant due diligence and so on and so forth. And the program facilitates all that. Targeted sectors includes agribusiness, manufacturing, transport, healthcare, and others. The SME development program also provides financing to other financial institutions, given that we cannot engage individual SMEs, all of them, and cater for their requirements. So we do provide lines to commercial banks, other development finance institutions, merchant banks, and of course other non-banked non-bank financial institutions, for them to now on lend to SMEs.
Pork, chicken.
Amongst other non-financial interventions under the program include capacity building, like I said, incubation and acceleration, workshops, and master classes, technical assistance, and so on and so forth. And also, we do have our own internal market access interventions, like the Africa Trade Gateway, which I'll touch on in a couple of minutes, the Intra-Africa Trade Fair, and we facilitate SME involvement and participation in our Intra-Africa Trade Fair. I'll touch on that later on, as well as the IATF Virtual. This is a virtual platform where traders and other buyers can interact virtually. For those who are interested in the agriculture sector, Afreximbank developed the Export Agriculture for Food Security. We call it EXAFS, given that we have noted that a lot of youth are interested to now venture into agriculture, but modern agriculture methods and so on and so forth, and businesses around agriculture. This initiative is trying to make sure that we boost the production in the continent. We provide the requisite financing. We have committed $2 billion United States dollars to begin with to finance agricultural businesses in all forms of agriculture who are geared to scale up production and distribute within the continent. Let me talk about one thing that I think as youth and the future leaders are very interested in is the state of play in our continent. We remain one of the least industrialized continents. And therefore, Afreximbank came up with the Industrial Parks and Special Economic Zones initiative. Amongst other issues, the initiative tries to accelerate industrialization by countering some of the challenges that have inhibited industrialization in the continent, from political instability, dependence on imports, commodity dependence, inadequate financing. As I touched on the SME development program, I think SMEs are very important, but even though some studies put SME composition in our industrial sectors and other sectors in our economies at around 80%, the gap in financing for SMEs is huge, which is measured at around 136 billion United States dollars. And that gap has to be addressed if we are going to start our journey towards industrialization, because SMEs are very critical in multiple points of the industrial chains. And the initiative also incorporates the participation of SMEs. And of course, the initiative also looks at providing the relevant infrastructure to support industrialization. We want the continent to transform by all sorts of manufacturing, export manufacturing initiatives. So as youth, don't shy away. Export manufacturing is an area where you have to venture in. And most of the countries that we have approached have responded positively to roll out industrial parks and special economic zones incorporating diverse types of businesses. Given that the initiative requires a lot of investment capital, we provide project preparation just to make sure that the feasibility studies and other studies are adequately financed. We also provide equity through our private equity subsidiary and so on and so forth. You'll be able to see a lot of details about this intervention from the slides that will be shared. We have at least supported similar such initiatives in a number of countries, and we've just listed them there. And some of the pictures of projects that are ongoing in Benin are also provided in the same slide. In the automotive sector, we supported the development of a continental automotive strategy, working together with the African Union and the AfCFTA Secretariat, so that we build a robust automotive industry in Africa. Every car that we drive has 30,000 parts. Those 30,000 parts represent opportunities for youth-led, women-led, and other giant industries to participate in the automotive value chain, from small components to large components to leather, seat belts, and so on. There are various industries that can be born, but the ultimate goal of Afreximbank and its partners is to make sure that we replace most of the dumped vehicles that come into the continent with African manufactured vehicles in the future, and build that robust industry, providing opportunities to multiple industries. Whilst we can produce in the continent, we can manufacture if we do the right investments and address the policy issues. There are still other barriers to grow intra-Africa trade and promote the thriving of the AfCFTA. Quality assurance being one of them. So it may be that we can manufacture goods, but they may not be accepted in export markets because they do not meet standards and other requirements. Afreximbank has come up with an initiative to make sure that there are sufficient testing, certification, and quality centers, so that those who are in the manufacturing space can test their goods, they can do inspections and be certified so that they export into other territories without any challenges. We have a couple of projects that are ongoing. I want to touch on this initiative, the Export Trading Companies Initiative, because the makeup of our African economies more or less is similar. Most of the producers, like we said, are SMEs or small scale enterprises. They do not have sufficient scale to produce, process, and engage the export market on their own, and also meet the required logistics and so on. That requires huge investments. We in Afreximbank developed the Export Trading Company Initiative so that as the producers are fragmented, an institution that is closing the market failure gap of not having an aggregator is born in each and every market to aggregate the products, provide the warehousing services, logistics, any financing, insurance, and so on. Also facilitate processing until the products are exported. And therefore, the SME-run businesses can be supported to thrive, because the Export Trading Company, or ETC, is closing the institutional gap that we see in most of the African countries. One such sector is agriculture, which really most of the sub-Saharan countries is dominated by small-scale farmers, and they cannot have sufficient capital to take their harvests to the market without incurring a prohibitive cost. So the ETCs aggregate and reach out to them, then provide warehousing and other services to make sure that they thrive and still engage export markets. There are various ways in which we are supporting businesses under the ETC initiative, and those who take a look at the slides after the session. We'll be able to see how we are doing that in the subsequent slides. Maybe we can dwell a little bit on the Creative Africa Nexus, CANEX, and I do encourage all of you to follow our LinkedIn platforms and other social media platforms to see what Afreximbank is doing to promote the orange economy and largely the creatives in Africa. And this is tapping into a talent that has always been subdued in the continent because of lack of formal support. The sector, that is the creatives and cultural industries, is increasingly being recognized to be significant in terms of its contribution to Africa's economy and the transformation agenda. But what we have noted is that whilst the pool of talent is deep, be it in music, art, movies, and other creatives, fashion, design, and so on and so forth, there is a lack of formal support in providing the requisite infrastructure, formal financing, marketing, and just commercialization of the creatives. And that is what the CANEX initiative is trying to address. We provide financing, capacity building, export and investment promotion, linkages and partnerships, digital solutions, and policy advocacy. Those who may have followed our CANEX weekends and other CANEX related events will see the diverse sectors that are now being supported by Afreximbank. And I do encourage those who are keen and are active in this sector to look at how they can reach out to us to also be considered for support under the initiative. Afreximbank has dedicated $1 billion to provide funding to the initiative. So please, as you retire to bed and so on later on this evening, just know that that 1 billion is not intact. Others are rushing to access it, and the capacity is indeed declining, is being utilized, and therefore, we do encourage those who have businesses that would like to be supported under the CANEX initiative to approach us. We do have a border market strategy, given that border areas are key hubs for social and business exchange. Those who live or maybe they access border regions will notice that they have a lot of potential to blossom into thriving social and business hubs. So what our strategy is doing is to now bring in the intervention to unlock that potential for those border areas to become social and business hubs. Our strategic pillars under the strategy is trade enablement to provide infrastructure, information sharing, and so on along those border areas. As you can see, the emphasis remains supporting SMEs to be engaged in these initiatives. Here, under our macro objectives, amongst other things, we want to ease access to financial services for African SMEs, particularly women and the youth. So those who would be interested to participate in similar such projects, just know that Afreximbank is actively supporting various businesses that can locate themselves and try to participate in border area sort of business chains. We provide financing, and there are also other digital products, or there are also digitalization initiatives that we are availing under the border market initiative. We aim to disperse $500 million by 2026 in terms of supporting businesses in this under this initiative. Movement of goods is also inhibited not just by infrastructure gaps, but Afreximbank noted that some of the instruments to allow goods to cross borders, those who have been to border areas will see that sometimes the queues of trucks is like 2, 3, 4 days It's because of lack of requisite instruments to unlock the processes. And therefore, we developed the Afreximbank's African Collaborative Transit Guarantee Scheme to issue bonds that can be accepted across multiple borders, and therefore trucks and others crossing borders will just present one instrument without need to now be recertified and access a new bond for each country. We developed this program together with the AfCFTA Secretariat, noting that it is very expensive for trucks to obtain different bonds along multiple borders. I'll also dwell a little bit on the Afreximbank's African Buyers Program. We may produce the goods, we may facilitate their movement from the production to processing centers to the border areas, and they cross. Maybe they are also enhanced or value added along border markets. There could be other services that may be done along border markets. We can address all that. We can have the transit guarantee scheme. But then we should also think as Africans, where is our primary market? We know the history of this continent. It has always been dependent on overseas market opportunities without focusing on tapping into the opportunities within the continent. And therefore, what we are trying to do as we are stimulating the supply side to scale up the production, we are also providing the means by which within the continent, African-made products can be bought and paid for with a lot of ease. And therefore, that risk you always worry about setting up a business to supply things that we know are needed in border countries and other neighboring countries and so on. We need to remove that perceptual risk by providing support to African buyers so that they can now start demanding African-made products and have means through which they can pay. So the Afreximbank's African Buyers Program aims at identifying, attracting, and developing, hosting, and maintaining a dynamic database of potential buyers for made in Africa products, but we include Caribbean because the Caribbean region also joined Afreximbank. As is the case under the African Union, the Caribbean is the 6th African region, so that the products and services can be bought within Africa and paid for using effective demand and so on and so forth. So we are providing various instruments under the buyers program to now address issues on the demand side. For buyers, we provide support for research and other things. And some of the buyers includes retailers, wholesalers, ETCs, and so on. And therefore, if they are active in buying from Africa, we can provide various sorts of financing instruments for them to have the means with which to pay for the products. I also mentioned ETCs. They are critical institutions in terms of our buyers program because they aggregate goods and services provided by smallholder farmers and other small scale producers, and therefore deliver them not just to the global marketplace, but to also African buyers. And through ETCs, we are identifying a lot of buyers within their networks for support under the buyers program. I'll skip that to go to an issue which I think most of you may be interested to know how we can support. So we may have the knowledge to produce, we may have the intellectual capital, but one thing that we noted as Afreximbank is that whilst debt instruments, somebody wanting to go to a bank and borrow, those ones may be available, although access may be a challenge. But Africa remains a capital-starved or capital deficient continent. The level of capital availability in Africa is very low, and therefore you
Just to
find that
interject, Mr. G,
yes.
so to everyone who have a question, just state it on the chat box. Please state your name, the country that you're from, and the question that you have, and obviously direct it to Mr. G. But also when it's question and answer session, then you'll be asked to ask the question live during the question and answer session. And you may proceed, Mr. Gerald. Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you, Program Director. Let me also emphasize that, Labor Gang, to everyone else, I really do not want to dominate the time here. I'm trying to progress quickly, because what we want to do is to have an interaction with you all. So my target, which I'll try to reach, is to spend no more than 30, 35 minutes. I think I only have 10 minutes remaining. But we do encourage that you ask questions on a number of areas. So please take note, as the program director has said, take note of any sort of question, be it on process, instruments, or even something personal. If you have a business and so on, and you're wondering, I'm in creatives, but everyone turns me back, can Afreximbank support me, and so on. My colleagues and I will be happy to receive those questions and address them. So if you see me trying to go through quickly, it's because I am under instructions not to be the dominant voice, but this is your session, so that you participate as much as possible. So the Fund for Export Development in Africa is, or in short, FEDA, is an impact investment firm which was established by Afreximbank, and it was established purposely to implement the bank's equity investment mandate across Africa. Like I said, debt sometimes is more efficient. If you want to borrow, it's a little bit slightly comparably easier than coming up with an idea and approaching someone to say, can you put in capital, so that the idea takes off and is sufficiently de-risked, so that we can now access debt from financial institutions. And therefore, to close that gap, we, as Afreximbank, established FEDA with a specific mandate to provide, or to go into equity investments across Africa. Its objective is to provide developmental equity capital into companies that are involved in intra-Africa trade and export development, or manufacturing in Africa. So the appetite is defined by whether the businesses seeking equity investment are involved in intra-Africa trade and so on, but on the export development side or manufacturing side of the African industrial sectors. So it tries to grow businesses with a focus on developmental impact. So although at the end of the day, as an investment fund, we look to have a financial return, but the biggest return under FEDA is to have that developmental impact delivered in the market where the business is located. And that is the primary goal, because we are a developmental financial institution as Afreximbank. It brings partners together. So we try to work along ecosystems and so on to make sure that where we now identify equity gaps, we go in and intervene to provide the equity and unlock the capacity for such businesses to access debt from other financial institutions, including from Afreximbank. So FEDA operates in countries that have signed the FEDA Establishment Agreement, and this is a very critical point for everyone to notice. You may have noted in the earlier slides when I introduced Afreximbank, we operate in 52 African countries, if I'm not wrong, because they have all acceded to the Afreximbank Establishment Agreement. For FEDA to enter into an investment, that investment must be located in a country that has signed the FEDA establishment agreement. For the sole reason that establishment agreement accords the investment some privileges and immunities, and therefore protects the investment from any external threats that may occur if such protections are not available. In terms of its investment strategies, there are 5 thematic areas. One of them includes FEDA direct equity, where FEDA aims to directly invest in suitable entities that meet its mandate. And Afreximbank has committed $270 million under this thematic area. The second one is the FEDA Africa Credit Opportunities Fund, which is a joint venture with a credit fund manager, and the available resources that have been committed are in the amount of 125 million United States dollars. And then there is a third thematic area where we support Afreximbank's strategic initiatives. From some of the interventions and programs that I have presented since the onset of my presentation, you may have noted that there are key initiatives that Afreximbank has conceptualized and rolled out to support the AfCFTA implementation, and of course, the integration of the continent in terms of economic activity. One example, which I'm sure most of you may not forget, is CANEX. So there may be a lot of CANEX ventures that require equity for them to take off. I think when I presented CANEX, I don't know whether I touched on the issue of making sure that those who are developing movies, music, and other creative arts should retain their intellectual property in the continent. So there's a lot of talent in Africa. Most of you approach Afreximbank, but you say, I want to create a movie, but I have Netflix or any other off-take and so on. That is just cash flow. It will give you some cash in the pocket. And we can support that if it is viable after our assessment and you make your money. But where wealth is created really in other developed economies is when your creative asset is retained by you in terms of the intellectual property rights. So when you flog it to an off-taker, you flog it together with the IP, and then they can spin off. They can, if it is a movie, they can spin off and have other versions and so on. They can have animations and others. The IP rights will remain with the off-taker. As Afreximbank, we are now creating a, if you may call it, a CANEX bank, where we will be retaining or will be investing in the IP. So when somebody has a work of art that they want to approach Afreximbank, like a movie, an album, and so on, instead of relying on cash flows from an off-taker, we will assess whether that creation is viable, and then we put in equity. You develop, because is that an intervention? All right, let me just finish the point. We will deploy equity and make sure that the creation is made and the IP is retained in the continent, and then the marketing can start from there. Any spin-off and so on will be up to the creator and the CANEX team to agree and say, let us have version 2, version 3, and animation and so on. But the IP rights are retained by the one who came up with the creation. This is how people can now create wealth and retain it on the continent for years even 20 years from the time that they created something, they are still spinning money out of that creation. This is why we said FEDA is an impact fund. We want to deliver real developmental impact in the continent by making sure that wealth is created, retained, and multiplied in the continent. Then there's the venture fund. Of course, this is critical for SMEs and other similar small businesses in so many areas, including innovation, science, technology, creatives, and so on. The venture fund was created to just provide a boost to such new ventures for them to take off. And we committed $25 million. I already explained the conceptualization and the objectives of the AfCFTA Adjustment Fund, which is the fifth thematic area for FEDA. And this is to support the transformation of African economies as they are repositioning themselves to actively participate in the AfCFTA. We have economies that realize that whilst their main sectors before the AfCFTA were mining and exporting of raw minerals or agriculture and exporting of raw commodities globally, they're now saying we want to invest in our youth and the talent. Let's create studios and other infrastructure to train the creatives, fashion, designs, and so on. This is the base of our economy going into the future. And they approach the AfCFTA Adjustment Fund to access funding to develop that infrastructure and other support mechanisms to retool and reposition their economies to take opportunity of the AfCFTA. So that's a lot to do with FEDA, which is a very critical instrument. And I would encourage those with brilliant ideas and so on that need equity investment before the debt comes in to consider developing robust proposals. So the idea shouldn't remain in our minds, but we now must put it on paper. We must do good business plans, get someone to assist with a financial model and so on, and market those ideas, approach FEDA, challenge us to say, invest in my creation, invest in my idea. If you put in the equity to multiply itself, this is a huge giant for the future in Africa. Let's have that mentality and try to attempt to access the support which is available. In terms of digital platforms, Afreximbank developed the Africa Trade Gateway. It is a cluster of various platforms which are addressing the digital gap in terms of transforming the African economic landscape, especially to make sure that we accelerate intra-Africa trade and improve competitiveness of African exports. I'll start with the MANSA repository platform. This is a due diligence repository platform, which is a source of single primary data needed to conduct due diligence on counterparties in Africa. The world has transitioned to dealing with each other when we know who we are, who is behind anything, who are the directors, who up to the ultimate beneficial owners of any enterprise. That due diligence or KYC is critical. But unfortunately in Africa, as Afreximbank, we noted that there was no single repository where any merchant, trader, buyer, investor could go and tap into information to just check the counterparties and get the comfort so that they can now commence investments, they can engage, and so on and so forth. MANSA was developed to close that gap in terms of having due diligence, credible due diligence data available. We are in the process of enrolling all sorts of enterprises banks, SMEs, and so on under MANSA. So to enroll as a business is free. There are forms that are filled, and then information about the business, the owners, and of course other details is provided. Once a business enters, it doesn't matter the size, it subscribes to MANSA. It means that its information is available under this platform. And those who want to just check credible counterparties that they can engage in Africa and do business with them, they find it in the repository. This is very critical because, like I said, the world has transitioned, as we all know. We need also to catch up and make sure that the requisite KYC and other due diligence information is readily available, and therefore we de-risk some of these soft issues that have inhibited investments and other sorts of engagements economically in the continent. So these are some of the factors that led to the creation of MANSA, including limited access to financing, and because of lack of KYC and so on, and also the need to promote visibility of African entities and so on. So as we are creating and growing our businesses, let's make sure that we approach MANSA and make sure that the information is readily available, and therefore you may de-risk some of the softer KYC issues, which are now becoming very hard issues. Apart from MANSA, there is also the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System or platform. PAPS was conceptualized to make sure that the settlements are eased in Africa. As you can imagine, hard currency is challenging to access in Africa. Sometimes you find that those who want to buy or engage into trade within Africa, because of shortages of hard currency, are unable to do so, because everything has to be settled in hard currency and not the local currencies. What PAPS is trying to do is to remove that hurdle by allowing businesses to produce and then trade within Africa and receive settlements in their own local currency. So for an African importer who wants to import any product, they can pay in their local currency. And for the African exporter, they receive payment in their local currency. Then the settlements happen within the financial architecture, which includes an ecosystem of central banks. This now removes the need to source hard currency. It may delay, it is costly, and in some cases, in some of the economies, is not available. And therefore, that stops the trade, it stops the engagements of African businesses. We have started piloting in one of the West African regions, but a lot of African central banks are subscribing, and therefore PAPS will continuously be expanded to cover the continent. And it operates 24 hours a day. It also operates independently in terms of domestic payment systems and so on and so forth. And the payments are instant in local currencies. So if one is settling in PAPS, they pay in local currency, the counterparty receives the payment in their own local currency instantaneously. So put together MANSA, which I covered, PAPS, and there is also the African Trade Exchange. Those who can try to look it up online, you will find that the ATEX or Africa Trade Exchange is an online marketplace which Afreximbank and its partners created to make sure that African businesses can trade, engage themselves, trade, and then there are also plans to make sure that the financing is also accessed. So if one orders products online and they need to be financed, they apply for the financing online. And therefore, the financing institutions plugged to ATEX, including Afreximbank, respond to that financing request and supports the trade. Our goal is to make sure that we accelerate the growth of intra-Africa trade by providing these digital platforms and creating a digital ecosystem that will lead to the increase of trade in Africa. Finally, in terms of the trade facilitation initiatives, I'll go to the Intra-Africa Trade Fair. One of the biggest challenges in Africa is the lack of access to trade and market information. And this was identified as a key constraint against growth of intra-African trade. We simply lack information about what is available in the next market and so on. I heard Madam Program Director mentioning that there are people from Zambia, others from Malawi. I bet you people from Zambia or people from Malawi or businesses for that matter do not know what is available across the border or what is needed. They have the capacity to produce and trade with each other, but information is available. You find that Zambian businesses are going outside the continent to buy things which are available in Malawi or in Zimbabwe and so on and so forth. To close that gap, we have various programs to avail trade and market information. The ETCs, the export trading companies that I presented earlier on, are also instruments that deliver market intelligence. As they are aggregating, they tell those small scale producers or farmers that the market wants this product produced in this way, in that variety, or processed this way, and so on, try to package it this way, and so on. But we needed to have a gathering where buyers, sellers, investors, policymakers, and so on can meet and engage. And those who want to showcase can showcase their products and so on. And therefore, we create that accelerated knowledge of what is available and what opportunities one can pursue in the continent. That is why the Intra-Africa Trade Fair was conceptualized. The first edition took place in Egypt in 2018. It was a huge success. Then the next edition took place in Durban, South Africa. The third edition came back to Egypt in 2023. So it was 2018, 2021, 2023 back to Cairo. And the fourth edition will be held in Algeria in 2025. The trade fair was conceptualized together with the African Union, AfCFTA Secretariat, but I have to mention that the partners for this program, ITC and others, are also partners to the trade fair. Under the trade fair, there are trade exhibitions, trade and investment forum. Again, like I said, CANEX, the Creative Africa Nexus, is also a big feature at the trade fair. So there are various CANEX performances and CANEX events at the trade fair across multiple sectors to make sure that we unlock the potential and awareness of the talent and other works of creative within Africa. And then there are B2B and B2G engagements. There are country days. Some countries acquire a whole day to showcase the available talents, the opportunities, the sort of industries and so on in that country. We do provide a platform for youth startup. So again, I do encourage participants to just search the Intra-Africa Trade Fair, look at some of the support we offer, and kindly consider participating in Algeria next year. And also there's the automotive show. Like I said, we are trying to promote the development of an African automotive industry. And let's not just think of the complete car. Some of us can make seat belts, others can make the leather for the seats, and so on and so forth. There are multiple opportunities for everyone in that value chain. So, like I said, 2023, the fair was held in Egypt. You can see the scale of the deals in terms of trade and investment deals. 43.8 billion closed in 2023, with 28,000 visitors and 130 participating countries, 1,939 participants. We project that 2025 Algeria will have around 44 billion dollars, given the inquiries that we have already started collecting. So the organization for that event is ongoing. This is the projected volume of trade and investment deals. Therefore, there are opportunities for everyone who is keen to participate. For more information about the IATF, please visit the website, and we encourage you to subscribe and plan to attend. Having said all that, like I had said, most of the work is on the trade facilitation, because we have to reform, we have to structurally address the gaps in the African economic backbone. And that's why we have some of those trade facilitation interventions. Apologies that due to time constraints, we couldn't load the presentation with all the interventions, because then that would require a full day for us to discuss. And as I made those presentations, I also hinted or touched on some of the financing instruments that are available, embedded in that particular trade facilitation program or intervention or initiative. But I will just summarize, maybe in more pointed ways, some of the instruments of support that are available within Afreximbank to support various industrialists and everyone else participating in this program this evening. For the adjustment fund, I already touched on that, therefore I will not dwell on it. We have various trade finance, project finance, and other investment finance instruments, including lines of credit, note purchase programs, and so on, even asset-backed lending, export development program that focuses on the exporting sectors, and so on and so forth. We have that is just a generic list, and I would encourage you to go through these product offerings as you receive the presentations to see how they can support you in your business endeavors. For those who are growing bigger businesses that will have multiple representations across a number of African countries, we just provide a global facility so that they can deploy financing not just in one particular country, but maybe across different African borders. We provide Intra-African investment finance. The Intra-African investment finance is a facility where if a business wants to acquire another business or an opportunity, or it wants to invest in a joint venture, then the borrowing can be done from Afreximbank and the funding deployed across a different territory to do the acquisition or the JV partnership, and so on and so forth. And again, it's sector agnostic, and therefore those who are interested can apply for this facility. It's becoming a popular facility, given that there are many opportunities in Africa for acquisition or mergers and so on, and including joint ventures. I already touched on the transit guarantee and what it seeks to save in terms of reducing the frictions as goods are passing African borders, and that is readily available. In case some of the participants, Madam Program Director, are into logistics business, they move goods from one market to the other, we'll be very interested to engage them to see how we can not just provide the physical assets, financing for the physical assets, be it trucks and so on, but also provide the bonds for those trucks to easily pass across African borders. Let me mention franchise financing. So with your permission, Madam Program Director, I think I'm remaining with 2 slides. Therefore, I'll take interventions after these 2 slides.
No problem, sir.
Thank you. Franchise financing facility was conceptualized because we want to accelerate the rate at which we are creating entrepreneurship in the continent. So all those who want to go and acquire a franchise, you've seen, be it in the culinary and gastronomy sector, that is food, restaurant chains, and so on and so forth, even distributorship and other licensed forms of businesses. If there are those opportunities, we developed this program specifically for SMEs to leapfrog and get into the business chains rather easily on a proven business that is already existing and successful. So we encourage people to come and access our franchise financing. And those who want to franchise their businesses, so they have a business, but to grow it from more capital growth maybe is difficult, but to just franchise it out to others, we provide support to format the business into a franchise, and then to also develop some franchises that will be owned by the promoter of the business, and therefore the other franchises will be owned by third parties. Parking credit finance is just a facility to help those who are into exports to acquire the products, process them, package until they are shipped and payment is received. And it's a popular product with those who are into the export business. Contract farming and export agriculture, there are a lot of inquiries for those who want to buy agricultural products, and they engage people to do farming. To farm and then deliver the products to them. So we provide this facility by just looking at the contract. We assess it and see whether it is a viable opportunity. And if it is so, then we provide the financing for the producing farmer to grow and then deliver and get paid to repair our facility. Contract and toll manufacturing, some of you may want to set up manufacturing lines. Don't think of big things, even smaller things, to manufacture on a contract and toll basis. Most of the known brands, they do business based on the brand. So they develop a brand, but the actual manufacturing, they license someone else. So if you ever meet an opportunity where you can make a product that is being licensed, but you don't have capital to set up the manufacturing facility to produce the products, this is the right product for you to approach us. We'll finance all the equipment requirements and everything else based on the contract and toll manufacturing contract that you may have negotiated. We have a process for applying for facilities in Afreximbank, and again, I do emphasize, because this is a very frustrating point, but very, very important, and that's why it is bullet number 1, KYC. So we always start with KYC, and you provide all your information so that you are cleared, and then we can start engaging on the transaction. We structure the term sheets, we negotiate the terms and so on, and we go through our approval processes, and then we go into legal documentation, sign off, and then you can access the funding. And there are further instructions on how to apply and so on from Afreximbank. I have left some thoughts for everyone else to read in their own time, but the summary is the African Export-Import Bank is there for you. It is a bank owned by 52 African countries and other shareholders, and therefore all of you are most likely indirectly owners of this bank. As you can see, we are responding to the requirements of the continent. We are there for you and for African businesses. We want to invest in the future of young entrepreneurs. We are not shying away from the challenges in the global environment. Other banks, perhaps, we don't know, are retreating. We are not retreating and fortifying our capital for a day that will be easier. We are not ducking from the difficult choices. We are taking them head on to make sure that there is a prosperous future, not just for the continent and the big enterprises, but for everyone, including the youth-led enterprises. Our record is there for everyone to see. We have disbursed $20 billion in our last strategic cycle to promote intra-Africa trade. We have already committed to disburse $40 billion in this current strategic cycle to promote intra-Africa trade across all those initiatives that I explained, including others that we couldn't load into this presentation in terms due to time consideration. So the opportunities are there for everyone. You can come into groups, you can come alone and so on. Please consider us as an institution that can support your aspirations. Thank you very much, Madam Program Director and everyone else. It was a long session, but on behalf of everyone from Afreximbank, I hope that I have just provided a hint of our aspirations and our readiness to engage you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harold. Just to emphasize on what Mr. G said is that as African Export and Import Bank, they are here for you and they are committed to investing in the future of our young entrepreneurs. That was a thought-provoking, informative session. And thank you very much to the African Export Import Bank on not only just empowering our young entrepreneurs, but also investing in educating us and empowering us with knowledge on how to improve our businesses. So we just have a few questions on our chat box. I'm just going to read out just one. Valencia, if you can just say if I am audible or not. So we also have, am I also is my visual also on?
Yeah. I think Jared can just stop the presentation.
No problem. So we also have a comment from one of our founders, Ms. Laone Bukamo, who is saying that, Gerald, is it possible to have a session for the young entrepreneurs on the Mansa registration? Oh, no, not that question. Oh, the comment is saying that, wow, these export trading companies are a great initiative. I agree with you, Ms. Laone. I was really astonished myself that are they going to be in every country in Africa, and how far are the implementation stages and which countries have already started? So if maybe just the team can just answer that one for us, and then I'll just be noting down all the questions. So when I call out your name, just say your name and also say the country from, and also point out your questions. I'll just be noting down the questions as I go. But for that comment and question, can just maybe the team members just answer that one as I also note down the others. Thank you.
So it is my turn to answer, right?
Yes.
All right. No, thank you very much. I can confirm that these ETCs, and Sandra is also here. She's very instrumental in that program. These export trading companies are supposed to be available in every country because that fragmentation is a huge challenge in terms of countries making progress in terms of engaging or forming regional value chains and other value chains, of course. So yes, every country has different sectors that may require the involvement of an ETC. In terms of the countries that have responded, there are many of them. There are people from Malawi here, I believe. I heard Zambia, Mauritius, Tunisia, And these are just countries that have approached us. As you can imagine, others are doing that on their own and so on. We have no limitations in terms of a country. Sectors, I think I already highlighted some of the key sectors for the ETC program. So the answer is also yes. How far into the implementation? Sandra, you can help me. But off my head, I remember we may have disbursed since 2017 or so, maybe 5 point something billion US dollars in terms of ETC transactions. Why that huge amount and yet few ETCs is because these are aggregators. So they are aggregating from a lot of other businesses, and therefore the amounts tend to be huge. So if you have any plans to set up or collaborate, please reach out to us. We'll provide our contact details. We'll be happy to engage with you later on. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I can maybe go to Sandra to just answer the question just before I note down all the questions. But in that specific order, so the first question, the first person that I'm going to note down is Osman A. Mazaku. Just also he's from Libya. So Osman, can you just unmute yourself and just open the mic and tell us your name, the country that you're from, and also state your question. Just repeat your question for us. And after Osman, can we please have just a second. After Osman, can we also have Ronald? After Ronald, and he will be followed by Sam Nchara. Yes, Tem Ntashara. And then I'll also just note the others as they come along. But Osman, can you please start?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on this platform. Yeah, I already enjoyed the presentation on our presenter this afternoon. My question here is, if you have a business ideas to establish a company that do recycling, can you get support from the Afreximbank? That's my questions to the facilitator, the presenter. Can you get me?
Yes. Thank you, Osman. So we're just going to take a pool of 5 questions for now. And then after that, the presenters and the coordinators will answer them. Can you also just raise your hands just for the question if you haven't really stated your questions on the chat box. Can we also have a question from Portia Safo from Ghana? But right as from now, can Sam Nchara please unmute their mic and also unmute their camera and ask their question. In the meantime, those who have questions. Hi, how are you? You can come through.
All right, thank you. So I'm Portia Safo from Ghana, and my question is, how do I get access to the repository if my business is not yet into exports, although you have ideas of going into exports in the future? How do I get access to the repository, or is for only those who are already exporting to other African countries? Thank you. That's my question.
Thank you very much. Next, can we have Ms. Laone Bogamo, and also just state the name that you're from and also the country and your question as well.
Hi, thank you, Ms. Laone Bogamo Hulela from Botswana. I run an infrastructure fund that provides equity for infrastructure projects around it's around big infrastructure projects. So my question to you, Gerald, and the Afreximbank team is around FEDA, because most of your funding is dollar denominated, and we know that our currencies, and I talk for non-francophone African currencies that are pegged to the euro, etc., because those are faring quite better, but most of our currencies have tanked against the dollar. And this means that the returns in private equity, venture capital are close to zero or non-existent. So how is the Afreximbank going to ensure that FIDA actually makes money or a return for the investments that they're doing, given that obviously goods are being bought in local currencies are tanking? So I just want to understand that, the return metrics. What is your hurdle rate? What are the return metrics for FIDA? And I know it's different buckets, but maybe we talk for the buckets that the youth are more interested in, which covers the SMEs or the venture capital. Yeah, that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laona. Noted from our side. Can I just have more questions? If you have a question, please raise up your hand. Can you just maybe just come in with your question? Just state your name and the country that you're from, and also what is your question? Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kehomoditswe from South Africa. I remember you touched about African Quality Assurance Center, the initiative that you had. However, it was more of cross countries. I wanted to ask, does Afreximbank fund for the application of quality assurance for products that are produced within the country? Because I believe that before you can actually export the product, it needs to be certified within the particular country. So does the bank actually fund for that?
Round of questions just after you answer these ones.
All right. Thank you very much. And I'll start with Osman Mazaku, if I got that right. Yes, we are interested to consider businesses that are in the recycling sort of activities. If you have a teaser for your proposed project, please just make sure you send to us. The contacts will be provided by the organizers who will look at it. And if I heard the program director very well, you are from Libya. Libya is one of our latest members in the bank. We'll be happy to have a project in this from this market. So please send the teaser to us. We just look at it and then we can commence the engagement. That will be interesting. Then I think the other question was from Portia Safo, Ghana. It was with regards to access to the Mansa repository platform. Her business is not yet into exports, so she was inquiring whether she can still access Mansa and deposit her information and so on. The answer is yes. In fact, it's important at this stage for you to register with Mansa. They will refer you to the team. They will take you through the registration process and so on. Because the day you want to engage others who may want to invest in your business and so on, they will go to that Mansa, and if they don't find your information, they'll now start struggling for how to ensure that you are KYC cleared. So this is the opportune time. And if you can provide your contacts, or if you can get our contacts and send your inquiry, we'll be happy to now link you with the Mansa team so that they handhold you to across the along the registration path. And that goes to everyone else who is interested in MATSA. We will do likewise to introduce you to the relevant team members, and they will facilitate the registrations. Then Laone Hulela from Botswana runs the infrastructure fund and so on. And Madam, you said you focus on big infrastructure. You should have seen me getting excited. Maybe we can talk business on how, if there are any other opportunities for us to look at. But I think, let me go to your question. It was around FEDA being dollar denominated, which is true. And then African currencies, they are where they are, but we are in Africa. We are an African institution and our subsidiaries are African. And therefore, these institutions are created to resolve African challenges. I think one way is also what I explained. It focuses on export-oriented opportunities and so on. What we can offer is to link you up to the FEDA team, because like I said, it looks like you could provide us with some good opportunities. Maybe there are some areas for further collaboration and exploration, whether we can do things together. So if you are happy or if you are okay, we can link you to the FEDA team for you to have a meeting with them and take the discussions forward. I will try to be excellent in this pronunciation. It's a challenge, Madam Program Director, but I want to overcome that challenge. Keho Modiswe from South Africa. I hope I haven't
Perfect.
murdered that.
You overcame it.
Thank you. Thank you. Quality assurance, Sandra is going to reach out to you together with, I think if Mary is also on this chat, they will take you through. It's not just the infrastructure development, but there are other forms of support that we are providing in terms of making sure that the challenges around quality assurance, inspection, and certification are dealt with. Therefore, do provide your contacts or just take note of our contacts as they are shared on this platform. We will be happy to engage with you and explore how we can support you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just take another pull off round of questions. We also have a question from Nagadia Hamadia. Can you just unmute your mic and just say your question, and followed by Ronald Musidila. And last, I think for just for this round of questions, we'll also have I think just for those two for now, and then we'll just take other questions. But those who have questions, please feel free to just raise your hand, and I'll just note you as the questions come.
So good evening, everyone. For me, my question is about, is it possible for the bank to fund someone who wants to start up a university that is basically going to be teaching people on aspects concerning trade and others? Because I believe that much as we are having these short courses, so many people cannot be able to get these opportunities. So, but if we have a university or an institution that teaches, it also helps in sensitization of people. That is what I had to say. I submit. And also, it also may improve on the quality assurances on how people conduct business. And in the end, I think the different organizations that are organizing this can be able to ascertain the benefits of what they intend, because the pool they can reach out to is smaller than the pool institutions can reach out to. Thank you. I submit.
Thank you very much. Can we also just have Ronald?
We didn't get her name and country. Country.
Thank you very much.
I'm called Nagadia Hamida. I'm from Uganda. I'm a business person as well as an academician, a lecturer.
So that was a question from Nagadia Hamida from Uganda. Thank you very much. Can we have Ronald followed by Titi from Zimbabwe? And that will just be that for the round of question of this round. And then we'll just open the pool for the next round. Thank you very much. Ronald, please unmute your mic and just visualize your visuals.
Hello, am I clear? Hello, am I clear? Can you hear me?
Yes, Ronald, you are audible and clear. Please go ahead with your question.
Okay. First, I would like to thank you for this insightful discussion so far. It has been really more informative and going back to
Sorry, just to interject, Ronald, please just also, and this also goes out to all the other participants, please state your name and the country that you are from and your question.
Okay, my name is Ronald Sigla from Botswana. My question, to make it short, I was curious about how is the bank going to facilitate or manage the currency, since it mentioned there was a discussion where they talked about the business being able to use their own currency during the trading with another business in Africa. So I was wondering how such challenges will be dealt with in terms of unifying the financial infrastructures across Africa, or how it will benefit other businesses. I think that's all for now. I think
Thank you very much, Ronald. Can Titi come through? Ronald, you can mute your mic and just close your camera. Titi, over to you. Thank you.
All right. Is it my turn to pick the questions?
Yes, I think no
All
problem. I think I'll just also just touch on Titi's question from Harare from Zimbabwe. Basically, the question was that does African Export and Import Bank have offices in Zimbabwe, Harare? You can take the questions now, Mr. G.
Thank you very much. Let me start with a name, which Madam Program Director, I'm sorry to point out, I may excel. You struggled with it. Nagadia Hamida from Uganda. She's an academician. She was asking whether we could support a university to be developed and so on to teach trade and the trade-related matters. This is a sector that we need to interrogate a bit more on the model you want to follow. For one reason or the other, we are a trade financing institution, and therefore we follow a trade mandate. But we collaborate with a number of institutions, universities and other training institutions. It's not as if we are not doing that in our work. I can encourage you, Nagadia, that maybe we take this conversation further. We do have an office in Kampala. We have a regional branch office there. Maybe we can exchange details and have a further discussion around that. I didn't get it whether you have a proposal. If you have one, even in short form, let's look at it and then maybe we can have a discussion. But also we encourage people to visit our branches and just interact with our colleagues in those branches to receive further support. Then Ronald from Botswana on PAPs. Yeah, so this is an area that requires a lot of harmonization and so on. The first point of call for PAPs when they're going into a country is the central bank, because as you can imagine, all the financial transactions, at the end of the day, there is the central bank as the apex institution. So even signing the PAPs agreement for a country is done by a central bank. The central bank joins means that all the other financial institutions are covered. And then the next step, those are integration issues on systems and so on to make sure that there is the undisrupted integration and efficient exchange of the financial transaction information and so on. That is also done. I cannot speak for the PAPS team. I think there is a lot more that they do. I will not humiliate myself with my lack of tech knowledge in this area, but they do resolve all those integration issues. Then the system goes live in that country. How this will benefit businesses, that is the PAPS. Like I said, there are opportunities to grow African trade, but sometimes the lack of hard currency to just settle the exchanges of goods or services is what prevents us from trading with each other. So PAPS is coming in to make sure that where trade wouldn't have taken place because of lack of foreign exchange, it should still go on. The business that is exporting, its operating currency is the local currency. The business that wants to buy or import, its operating currency is the local currency in its market. Let everyone operate on their local currency, but then the trade happens. As you can imagine, then we can do more business with each other. That's the philosophy of PAPS. Then the other name, was it Tsitsi from Harare? I didn't hear very well. The short answer is yes, we have a regional office. This was the first regional office. The headquarters of Afreximbank is in Cairo, Egypt. Then the first regional office for the bank was Harare, Zimbabwe. It's located near, what's the name of that hotel? I have forgotten the hotel, but the most popular hotel in Harare, next to it is the Afreximbank office. If you have time, you can visit or you can send them an email to book a meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. G. And I'd also just like to hand over maybe to also hear a bit of interventions and insight from your coordinators and anyone from your team, any comments that they have, anything they'd like to add from their side to just also impart more knowledge on the African Export and Import Bank on us. So you'll just tell me who from your side will just be just giving in a bit of intervention and just a bit of extra knowledge.
All right, I'm trying to scroll through the names to see who is available. Sandra, you are on, right? Maybe Sandra, who else is on from our side?
Sandra just rejoined right now. So Sandra, just a bit of knowledge. Would just also like to hear maybe just a recap because I see you just joining right now, but would just like to maybe hear just a bit of insight from your team as a coordinator and just a bit of knowledge and intervention to say just a few notes or a few takeaways that you'd like to give in. So I don't know if you can just go through now, Sandra.
Yeah, I think Sandra, you can speak on some the many interventions and initiatives that you do from your section to support businesses, be it on how to export trainings and other forms of interventions. Just summarize and provide insights on largely trade facilitation support that is available. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Valencia, can you just help Sandra to just unmute? She's just having a bit of technical errors. If you can just assist her on that half.
We can just proceed to the next questions. Let me follow up with Nancy.
No problem. I just don't see any question. William, Dare, can you just also unmute your mic and also tell us your name and the country you're from? So, William, over to you.
Oh, thank you very much. My name is William Dare from Nigeria. I'm happy to be here today. My question is there any intervention for NGOs? Like, for example, I coordinate a project for USAID under Feed the Future Initiative and Feed the Future Innovation Initiative in Nigeria. And we have a very good project that can be used to address post-harvest loss in Africa. So I don't know how this organization can help, boost the awareness and let people understand this initiative and be able to buy it and be able to address a post-harvest loss in Africa, which will help to mitigate food waste. That is my first question. Then the second one is, by profession, I'm a mining engineer. We have a lot of solid minerals in Africa that can help revive the economic of Africa. For example, right now in major countries in Africa, we have lithium. And we're talking about solar energy, renewable energy. And this is the best opportunity that Africa can come together and be able to extract these minerals and build our resources in Africa. So I don't know whether there's any intervention that can be provided for local miners in Africa that will be able to enable them to have a sort of uniformity, work together and see how we can build these resources so that what happened in oil industry will not happen to solid minerals industry in Africa. So I don't know that there's any intervention that the organization is also building, because this is what the world will fall into in the nearest generation. So I don't know whether there's any intervention in that regard that can help the local miners be able to access funds and build resources just like Chinese, and be able to extract and be able to sell and export. These are my two questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, William. Just to note down a few questions, I'm going to take a question from Moshwe. I'm also going to take a question from Kanput. I'm also going to take a question from Cynthia and Clovis. Just also remember, participants, that when you ask a question, please state the name and the country that you're from, followed by your question. In that particular order, from Moshwe, Khan, Cynthia, and Clovis. Moshwe, please unmute your mic and also just open up your camera.
Hello,
Thank
can
you.
you hear me?
Yes, you are audible,
I don't
Moshwe.
think I will be able to open my camera. I'm using a laptop here. It doesn't have a camera. I'm sorry for that, right?
No problem.
Yeah. All right. No, I don't know, but that's not my name. I'm listening on Gopa and I'm all the way from Lesotho, right? Yes.
Thank
So
you.
my question is basically on the institutional capacity building. That's the Afreximbank support such, because I'm leading one of the organizations, the youth-led organization, which is focusing on capacitating young people. Basically, we're looking a lot on information dissemination and what the problem faces us as young people in Lesotho. We're seeing us in Lesotho, we have a high unemployment rate, and we fought maybe sharing the kind of knowledge that we might have among us as young people, because in terms of knowledge, we have it. But you see, there's a problem in terms of that information. Maybe even this information for Afreximbank is my first time to hear this kind of information. And maybe even sharing the kind of information which is there in the country for a business to develop. Is there any kind of loan that we can apply to the Afreximbank to support us to strengthen the institution that we are in now, so that we can extend that hand to other young people's business that are growing, maybe training them into the business management and other trainings that we thought they can bring a positive change into a young person's life. And lastly, my question would be like, I'm an architect by profession. Like, so in Lesotho, I've seen the gap in terms of the real estate. So is there any engagement that the Afreximbank can help me just to take that idea to the next level? Because there's a lot in Lesotho if we can invest in the real estate that we can bring as young people. So I think I have those only two questions for now. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Khan, please come through. Please unmute your mic, state your name and the country that you're from. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Khan, and I'm currently of the beautiful city of Nairobi, Kenya. That's where I'm residing. I have, I'm actually not that much because I'm also interested in renewable energy, but William already asked the question. And let me just shift now to the next question, on which, because now Gerald and his team said that they have offices in regional, but I don't know they can maybe tell me where I could access them in Nairobi, Kenya, because my idea is basically will be Nairobi, so I don't know where the offices are located or where the office is located. Then I can now to access them to make sure that my application is considered. Maybe when I can send my application online, that might be not considered, but I want to let them know how to go to them physically and then to talk to them so that now they can consider my application. That's my question. Where the office is located in Kenya? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can Cynthia come through? But just after Cynthia, we're also going to have Sandra, who will also just be coming in with just a bit of her interventions and giving us a bit of insight, and also maybe try to answer just a few questions. So Cynthia, after Cynthia, it's Sandra. Thank you very much. Cynthia, please unmute your mic and also just open your camera. Thank you, Cynthia. You can go through. I think Cynthia is having a bit of technical issues. Sandra, can you please just go through? There you are, Cynthia. You can proceed.
Okay, can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you now.
All right. My name is Cynthia. I'm from Nigeria. My question is, does the Afreximbank, specifically the FEDA fund, because you mentioned that it's considered an impact investment fund, does it have an ESG currency to the impact, social and economic impact, currently measured? So is there a way that the bank guarantees positive social and environmental impact beyond trade? Thank you.
Madam Program Director, maybe that question I didn't get it on my end. If it can be repeated by Cynthia. Thank you.
Absolutely, I can repeat myself. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. My question was, you mentioned that the FEDA fund is considered an impact investment fund. From what you've explained, this fund is also pretty much an industrialization acceleration fund, because that's what the Convention about Trade is about. So at a time where Africa is in the middle of handling the climate crisis and all the issues that come with environmental impact issues, my question was, does the FEDA fund have an ESG currency index through which the environmental and social impacts of the fund is currently measured? Or is there a framework that guarantees positive social and environmental impact beyond trade?
Thank you very much. Did you maybe just get a note of that, Mr. G?
Yes, I got that.
Thank you very much. Sandra, can you come through if you can, or should we? Let me just take the last question from Clovis, then we can go straight to Sandra. Clovis, you can just unmute your mic, open your camera, tell us the name and the country that you're from.
Hello, do you hear me? Do you hear me?
Yes, Clovis, you are audible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Clovis Kambale. I am an entrepreneur from DRC, Kinshasa.
Clovis, can you just unmute your mic? Yes, now you're muted.
Okay, I say my name is Clovis Kambale from DRC in Kinshasa City. So I want to know, how can I benefit from this program while being in technical service? Because in my society, I offer technical services in mechanics and electricity. So how can I benefit from this program?
Thank you very much. I think we noted down your question. I'll just hand over to you, Mr. G and Sandra. Which one of you will go first?
The lady goes first.
Thank you, spoken like a true gentleman. Ms. Sandra, over to you. Please unmute your mic and also just tell us and enlighten us which country you are actually giving this input from. Thank you. Over to
Good
you,
evening.
Sandra.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Madam Program Director. My name is Sandra. I'm from Egypt, based in the headquarters of Afreximbank in Cairo. Well, my colleague Gerald has covered everything in his presentation, but I would like to maybe highlight one thing about the importance of harmonization of standards on the continent. So the bank believes that having harmonized product standards is critical to the implementation of the AfCFTA. So this ensures that the producers of goods on the continent, they comply with
Sorry,
one
Sandra,
shared.
sorry to interject. Can you just maybe just open up your camera?
Yes, sure. 1 second. Hello?
Yes, you are audible.
Can you see me?
Yes. Now we can see you. Nice to meet you. Yes.
Nice to meet you too. Okay, so the idea of the harmonization of standards is that the producers, they produce goods on the continent while complying with a shared set of minimum regulatory and customer quality requirements, which would help them with supplying the continental market with the goods that meet those standards. So the harmonization of standards also serves to enhance the quality of African manufacturing and boost intra-African trade, which also takes us to the Made in Africa product. So the Made in Africa product, once they have the same, once they comply to the same standard, that would actually facilitate intra-African trade. So the bank, in collaboration with the ITFC, under a program called the Arab Africa Trade Bridges program, we've worked on the harmonization of pharmaceuticals and medical products, also on leather and textiles. So on pharmaceuticals and pharmaceuticals and medical products, we've harmonized about 365 standards up until now, and we've started during COVID to harmonize standards related to masks and all the primary medical products, which actually was very beneficial at the time. Also, in terms of textiles and leather products, and we've harmonized about 36 standards until now. And the new one is for gastronomy. We're working also with ARSO to harmonize gastronomy and the restaurant and services related to the gastronomy sector in Africa. So this also is related to the CANEX strategy that Gerald spoke about, because we have a gastronomy pillar under the CANEX strategy. Yeah, so I just wanted to highlight this. Otherwise, I believe Gerald has given a very good summary about all other initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sandra. That was well put. Over to you, Mr. Chi.
All right, thank you very much, Madam Product Director. You see, Sandra is ever the very gracious person. She says, I've covered it all. That is just diplomatic speak. But I'll believe her, as I always do. I think there was a question from William Dare from Nigeria on a project that is being pursued to mitigate post-harvest loss. In my presentation, we covered the EXAFS, the Export Agriculture for Food Security. Again, that's a food security issue. My only advice is it's coming from an NGO perspective. Let's package these things now commercially so that they can be considered by the bank, because we still consider commercially oriented transactions. But very interesting. We are in the process of considering a number of projects to mitigate post-harvest losses. So maybe if you have something, package it commercially, then it's we could look at it. Then there was a follow-up question on, I'll just take it as the harnessing the African resources. There was talk of lithium and other resources that are available, which can be extracted by small-scale miners. Yes, we do support a lot of mining projects. Some of the small-scale miners are too small to access the financing directly from us. But what we normally do, if there's a mining project, we like to encourage local participation, and therefore we take a local bank, put a line with a local bank so that the artisanal and the small-scale miners can also be catered for, maybe integrated into the value chains of the other bigger miners, so that, again, the gaps in terms of them accessing infrastructure, logistics, and so on is closed. So it's something that we are considering in a number of areas, a number of countries. We are working with AfCFTA to map the value chains for mining projects, also incorporating the artisanal and small-scale miners within those value chains and seeing how best to avail support to them. Then this name, I will also try to excel. It was Lesinio, is it, from Lesotho? I think it was a question around institutional capacity building for information dissemination by around young people and so on. I can only encourage you to take a look at our platforms like the Intra-Africa Trade Fair and what it does for youth, and see if there's alignment there and so on. Maybe I could have asked Sandra to come back, but maybe in the interest of time, I'll try to constrain myself. We have a number of youth-related programs, scale-up targeted programs, and other things around the youth. Maybe it's also something that you can just check online on what we do and where you fit. In terms of the infrastructure gap, I think it was more on real estate. We do not support social infrastructure because it falls outside our mandate. So social housing and so on, we do not. But trade supporting infrastructure like hotels and so on that are trade oriented, you could even add that hotels generate export revenue via the services that are accessed by tourists and business visitors. We do a lot of those, but the social one, we do not, because that falls outside our mandate as a trade financing institution. There was a question from Kani Habaria Sibui Khan from Nairobi. There you are. We operate via regional offices, so we do not have offices in each and every country. We only have regional offices. For East Africa, the office is based in Kampala, Uganda. But in every country, we have multiple. Like in Kenya, we work with all those banks, KCB, Equity, and all those others, I&M Bank, CFC, Stanbic, all those banks are our partners. So when we have a transaction, we use them to be our agent on the ground and so on. We are responsive online. We always respond online. But if you want to physically visit, Uganda is there. But just send an email to us. We will get your application and so on, and we carry the process online. In any case, Nkuba Khan, the money these days, you don't get physical money from Afreximbank or anyone. It's also electronic. Those are transactions that are digital. So the communication should also be digital. Cynthia from Nigeria, I'll try to be a little bit more careful with this question because it is on a specialist area. If you can allow Cynthia, I'll link you up with someone in FEDA and you can have a discussion with them with their approach towards maybe ESG related impacts, not just trade and so on. I have some ideas around it, but I would want to link you up with someone in FEDA so that you engage with them and they explain to you at length in terms of their framework for ESG and whether they have considerations beyond trade, one of which could be the environmental impacts and so on. So let me link you up with someone from FEDA to take that one. Clovis Kambale from DRC, you want to benefit. We have what we call twinning and matchmaking. We always promote businesses that are doing or that are accessing financing from Afreximbank to access services and so on, and to engage SMEs and other businesses from Africa and from the countries. Please send your profile, just the profile of your business, so that if we have something around DRC, around these technical services that you provide, then we can refer to those who may want to access those services. Madam Program Director, those are the questions that were posed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. G and Sandra. And can we just have a bit of closing remarks, anything that you guys took from the audience and their questions? And in closing remarks from your side, it can be Mr. Alassane, as well as Sandra and yourself. Just closing remark from you guys, and then I will conclude the session.
Yes, thank you very much, Program Director, and thank you to everyone. First and foremost, thank you to YALDA for putting this together. And really, my colleagues, I mean, all of them have been much longer at Afreximbank, so you really get to get the most from what we offer. But I think in terms of takeaway, what you clearly understood from this really rich and diverse list of services, tools, and initiatives that we deploy, you have to think of Afreximbank basically as a one-stop shop. One-stop shop where either you can receive financing from, or you can get access to market from, or you can get information from, strategic information from, or where you can have Afreximbank play in the policy advocacy space in order basically to get all the environment that you evolved in very conducive. So yes, so we are really open to you. And I think with this session today, you have a better understanding, and also you would have the appetite to engage further on a one-on-one basis with any queries, information, or follow-up questions, if any. But we are really happy. So thank you, everyone, and have a good evening to all. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, team. And also just like to just include a few sessions that also just to give you a bit of insight also on YALDA, that as YALDA, we also ran a training program for preparing funding proposals for businesses at the Intra-Africa Fair in Egypt 2023 in the Youth Pavilion in partnership with the African Union. But also just from my side, thank you very much for your participation. Thank you very much to all the speakers. This was still a very thoughtful and a thought-provoking session. I'll still just also, before I conclude the session, can I just also have closing remarks from Sandra as well as Mr. Gerald? Thank you, Sandra. You can go through, as Mr. G would say, ladies first. If Sandra's having technical issues, Gerald, can you go next?
All right, I would have preferred that Sandra delivers the closing remarks. I have much to add. I think my colleague Hassan said it all. It was great to interact with all of you. Apologies. Madam Program Director, those who can give me training in these presentation platforms, maybe some of them, they are here. You saw how I struggled to upload and project and so on. Maybe that's also one benefit from this interaction. But on a more serious note, we believe that the fate and the prosperity of Africa belongs to the efforts and the aspirations of the youth. So this is the time for the youth to rise up and take the opportunities. The AfCFTAs for the future, and the future will be directed by the youth. They will be the ones who will be there to live in this environment long after some of us are gone. So any ideas that you have, it may look like it's far-fetched, but maybe if you join hands and so on, you can come up with something, approach YALDA. They will help, and maybe we can do something together. It's always good to come back and say 2 years ago we met, and then we financed a business or two, and things are moving. I don't have much to add. Thank you very much, Madam Program Director, for a very good event. Always a pleasure to interact and collaborate with you and the team. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good night to you soon. And those who are, because I saw our brothers and sisters from USA, good evening, good morning to those that are still in morning, good afternoon to those that are still in good day. But I hope that we each took a bit of insight and more information and knowledge, and we all feel very empowered. But most importantly, we got the information that will help us empower and just upscale our businesses. And I do hope that you do reach out to the African Export and Import Banks, But from YALDA's side, we are very excited that we yet got the opportunity to empower another African child. And thank you very much for joining us this session. Please do not forget to just tag us and follow us on our social media platforms. Valencia will just put out the links for our social media platforms just right after I conclude. And also don't forget that we also have our 5th module session, which will be on the 18th of September. So please don't mix out on that. It'll also be just as informative, just as great as this session. Thank you very much, and good night to you all.
Good night. Bye-bye.